To continue our talk on geometry, we're going to talk about 4 different ways that triangles can be congruent to each other. Don't forget, congruent means the exact same size and same shape. So if we have 2 triangles that are congruent, we can take one, put it on top of the other, and it would fit perfectly. The first way of 4 that we're going to talk about is called side-angle-side, or SAS. And this says if 2 sides of one triangle and the angle in between those 2 sides is congruent to 2 sides and the angle in between those 2 sides of a different triangle, then those 2 triangles have to be congruent. They have to be the exact same size. Alright, so side angle side, you have 2 sides congruent, the angle has to be in between those 2 sides. To write a congruency statement, you have to match up the letters from one triangle to the other. So if I wanted to say that the triangles are congruent, I would say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. I have to see what A matches up with. Right? A is down here, it's on one side, it's on the side that has one mark on it. So is D, so A is going to match up with D. Right. If you look at the markings, you know that angle B is equal to angle E. So I can put E second, and then C is last. C is on the side with 2 marks, so is F. So therefore, triangle ABC would be congruent to triangle DEF. Second way to tell if 2 triangles are congruent is called angle-side angle. That means you have 2 angles congruent to another triangle and the side in between them. Now, how I've done this in the past is I've told my students to mark down what you have more of, congruent. So in this case we have 2 angles congruent, so I would put down 2 A's. Right? 1A stands for one of the angles, 1A stands for the other one. Right? And then I have this third thing marked, which is a side. The side falls in between the 2 angles, so therefore I want to put my S in between the 2 A's, which makes it angle-side angle. Angle-side says I have 2 angles congruent and the side that is not in between. Once again, if you mark down what we have more of congruent, we have 2 angles congruent, so I can put down 2 A's. I have a side congruent, and that side is on the outside of those 2 angles, so therefore I put the S outside of the 2 A's. That makes it angle-side. The fourth and final way is side-side-side. That just says that if all 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to all 3 sides of another triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So this one, very easy to see. If all 3 sides are congruent, it's got to be side-side-side. On our first example, it's given that angle CDB is equal to angle DBA. We need to mark up the diagrams. You can't do these without marking up diagrams. Right, so first we have to identify what angle CDB is. So to find the angle, just go straight in order. Find angle CDB. So it's going to be the bottom right angle. So let's put a half circle on it. It says it's congruent to angle BDA. So BDA is going to be the angle right above it. Put a half circle on that. If you put a half circle on an angle, that means that they are the exact same measure. They equal each other. Angles will always be identified by having the angle mark in front of them, and it should give you 3 letters. If, like in the next given, it only gives you 2 letters, so that means we're talking about sides. So it says side AD. So on side AD, you want to put a hash mark. You put hash marks on sides, half circles on angles. Side AD is equal to side DC. So DC is down here. Put a hash mark on it. To say triangles congruent, you need at least 3 things. Right now, if we look at this top triangle, in this bottom triangle, we only have two things. We have one side congruent to each other, and we have one angle. We have two things marked in each triangle. So we need a third thing. If you look carefully, side DB is in both the top triangle, triangle ABD, and it's in the bottom triangle also, triangle DBC. So if it's in both triangles, if it's the exact same line, it has to equal itself. Right. So then to tell if these triangles are congruent or not, you need to look at what we have more congruent of. We have two sides marked and one angle. So therefore I want to put down two S's. Now look to see where the angle is. It is in between my two sides. So therefore I need to put the A in between the two S's. So triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD by side angle side. For example 2, it gives us that angle A is equal to angle D. So therefore I want to put a mark on angle A and angle D. And it tells us that angle ABC is congruent to angle DCB. Okay, so angle ABC, if I follow it, ABC would be the angle right here. And then angle DCB is going to be right here. So if I look at my top triangle and my bottom triangle, I have two things marked in each triangle. I need to get a third, so you want to look for a shared side. The shared side, or a side that's in both triangles here, would be BC. BC has to be equal to itself. Alright, so to see if these are congruent or not, I need to write down what I have more of, congruent. I have two angles congruent, so I can put down two A's. And then the side is outside of, it's not in between the two angles, it's outside of it. So therefore I put my angle on my S on the outside. So therefore these two triangles are congruent by angle side. I can say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle A matches with D. We already said A is equal to D, so I put a D first. B would be equal to C. They have two marks on them. So I put a C here. And then the angle that's left in the top is C. C is going to match with B in the bottom triangle. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DCB by angle side. Four ways to tell, the only four ways you can tell a triangle is congruent: side angle side, angle side angle, angle side, or side side side.